Sector, Aquarius 3.0, and arriving to Sector, Scorpius, within an hour. The scene ends with the space yacht being intercepted by a small vessel being chased, cataclysmically by money pirates. Large battleships from the Fiat Money's Guild, she the caller probably robbed her uber rich uncle, instead of doing the noble thing. This competition was worth robbing space guilds if you knew how to do it. They, the total crew of now 30 women, had so much work to do.
It all began after a review, years after they had left, and after acknowledging some threats, we compiled their threats, their bank accounts, what they stole, and who they killed. They were all connected to the Republican People Movement. We always knew the women had been with them, the unholy horde of affluenza. We observed how they met with them, how many people spoke both against and for them, skillfully to appease but also to get things done behind the scenes. The scene begins in a courtroom filled with documents, so many that new symbols had to be created for numerous cases. Million Murder Mary represented by one symbol, 10 million religious conspiracies, hiding behind the skirts of white power but blackened with evil. No one trusts religion here. And 10 symbolic symbols for their returned hatred. They gave grand speeches against us, using stolen spaceships and hiding behind refuges. They took turns holding the same positions of power to feel relevant. They are charged with the same offences as their accomplices in financial crimes and general conspiracy mutiny. We don't need them on our planet anymore, but they should take their space opera speeches elsewhere and use radios fully tuned to their emotional and mental state. Go deliver your white privilege speeches in front of the enemy and tell us how well it went. We make it a point to never show emotions in front of the enemy and to never start gambling on them. The cyborg Genesis movement had its humble beginnings during the mortgage crisis, related to the Great Depression. It was the first dance of white people at investor relations. The movement had been tracking them for hundreds of years. They examined documents again in a large warehouse. They speak in unison. They became AI. It's just the gospel, the heaven version. We know some are programmed to never feel pain, unlike a real robot which would understand how and why. We must search for survivors. Interrogators Whitney. Bring a few premium war captains, pay W leaders. So weak we had to dress up their names, and leave the rest. There is a huge group they have always used as hostages, and we must get them back. They rely on minorities, even their animals and insects way too much. We must get them our help and recovery methods more and more as we get closer, or it won't end well with few areas. Do we control the tools? No, but the spacers can get there quick. The arrivals. A dozen ships descended upon the frozen volcano. Amidst the icy tundra, a steamy lake shrouded the land in mist. First, an ice ship broke through the frosty storms, navigating the harsh ice with its resilient design. Next, a lava ship arrived, its rotating wheels spewing lava thrusts as it settled. Following closely, a unique wooded ship made from custom plant bio landed. Although non-living, it sustained energy in plant form and was space-capable. Several other ships followed, each exhibiting their own custom landing formations as they settled in. In this new world, they all chose to abandon their money, embracing their new beginnings.
Hook. $5,000 is a ratio of 1 input to 5 outputs. Can it get better? They peer over the ratio guidelines and realize 1 input should always be 3 or more outputs. They agree. Nicole instructed them the same. So hook up the hose to the lake. An input of 1 should be 10 gallons. Sarah explained. Then we hand crank the dual pump, which fills up tub 1. When it fills up tub 2 above, the turbine is at full capacity because the weight of the water from inlet 2 helps spin the turbine automatically. Nicole confidently replied, "That's exactly right. Then we can disconnect the hose from the lake, seal it back in the bin, and then we push remote." Commander Ruta approached her terminal, and the computer sprang to life. Commander Wooten optimistically said, "1 unit at our maximum capacity could equal 100 units." Stacy and Ethan, twins of joy and beautiful mothers from planet Pluto, giggled with a grin. They playfully said, 1,000 units is easy. Fuel, food and farm. Dr. Clarissa declared with determination. We have to use sticks, stems and roots for the chemical science. The team arrives in a stunning forest, alive with creatures both large and small. Well, if we hadn't landed in the wrong spot, we would be fueled by now, Nicole said, annoyed. Nicole operates the hand crank to the viewing screen and sees a large dinosaur hanging out. They set up in a farm near the lake. The scene ends with them hanging out on the farm. The contraption hose remains in the lake, and the outlet hose is hooked into a large redwood, ready to launch it into victory. The camera pans up to show a custom bar midway up the tree. They've transformed the tank into a distillery, producing many bottles of wooded whiskey. The bar is named A Whiskey Tempo and stars Among Us.
A crew of supernatural astros crash land on a beach planet. Water and sand, lava and stone are everywhere. They don't care. They ditch their trillion credit craft in an instant. The signal came over their NetSpeak, text-based SpaceNet protocol that skirts the law of light speed communication protocols. It was an official contest sponsored by the Co. It was so secret, it was leaked over the open radios in the face of corporate everyone. They knew the brand. They knew the psychosis, rockets through hurricanes, the Co tested freighter aircraft into tornadoes while he was in holding. All this tech is based off the war effort, War of the Gods, and he had to build and equip his army on the cheap. Hundreds of credits per day versus hundreds of titans at trillions per second. These contests show you can do anything if you're smart enough against astros.
A message on a broken radio starts to repeat. It's a new release with drums and trumpets. The people love it. A female voice starts. Once again, welcome to the treasure hunt. Huntsman and never again. Women, this is all for you. A time to earn yourself a favor and make it worth the loot you are about to receive. Don't become the treasure of your own desire. This is on repeat once an hour. Traders and explosions usually end the transmission. This world doesn't care anymore. It used to be their bank guild. We don't care. We don't need their money. The elders' castles and mansions represent the deceased minds of the past, filled with wealth but lacking character. Many of these individuals chose to leave humanity, alienating themselves, and we let them for what they bring as hatred and jealousy, things the battalions of nurses seek to eradicate. People work diligently, reconfiguring helicopters, swapping weapons. Their symbols, both anti-war and anti-religious, tell a story of defiance. The music playing showcases their commitment to warding off religious topics, creating an atmosphere of resistance and music supplies.
when it reached the area, and SuperSound. They needed what exactly was in the debris.
In the vastness of space that blackened the spectacle of things, the formation of five suns, each unique in colour and form, with shades of red, orange, gold, blue, and yellow-gold, encasing two mysterious sun stations. Within the confounds of one station, the design stretches like an ancient asteroid. It seamlessly merges with advanced technology, forming a hub, a marvel of future architecture. Life blooms where the rock and core once lay still. Only a select few corporations possess the experience and technology to craft such celestial beings. They don't want fame or fortune, just the things to craft. Please choose the design creations.